wildflower, and flowers in general, have followed me through life. At 22, traveling through Europe, I made my way to Belle-Île off the French coast. Many people I encountered during my travels had recommended it, and so off I went one day from Paris. It necessitated a car ride, a bus ride, a train, then another bus, then walking, to finally arrive at Quiberon on the coast. I found a bedroom for let for the evening. A short walk brought me to the Côte Sauvage, and there my heart sighed. It had been 7 months or so since I had seen the sea. Even during a wondrous winter visit to Grindelwald, where I marveled at the Alps, I had still felt something missing. That something was the sea. As I sat on the wall in Quiberon staring out at the waves, I said to myself, finally I am home. It had nothing to do with the French town. It had everything to do with the sea. My soul missed the ocean and hurt upon seeing it again. The ferry trip out to Belle-Île began early the next morning on one of those typical working shuttles of hard metal and rough edges, mixed with the aroma of diesel. Upon entering Le Palais, I inquired about the possibility of a bus tour of the island. An hour later, I was seated among 40 retired Frenchmen on holiday. Most were couples, with a few widows and widowers sprinkled in. They were in their 60s or 70s. I was in my 20s, and so the object of much interest, or desire, as the case may be. The usual French reserve was put aside as they tried to understand why exactly I was on holiday with them. During the exploration of the island, I began gathering wildflowers. It was in early May, and the fields at each stop were full of them, mostly petite, but with beautiful clear colors. They were unlike the gray ocean that surrounded us. After about the 5th stop, some of the men started picking wildflowers and bringing them to me. Eventually, I had too many flowers and too many women annoyed with the attention I was being given. Picking up on their peeved attitude, I quietly retreated to my seat and spent more time analyzing my flowers as opposed to conversing with their husbands. It was during this examination that I realized just how many different flower shapes, colors, and designs could come from one place. Imagine the variety throughout the world, I thought, where the diverse climates and geography would provide even more opportunity for distinctiveness. In March of 1982, I met Tom. At that time, he was living in an apartment in Old Town, directly across the harbor from where we now live. In early spring, the harbor was empty, save for the fishing and lobster boats. Then you'd wake up one morning and there'd be a sailboat on a mooring. Then that afternoon another would appear, and then another. The next day the first one would be gone, and then for 3 or 4 days nothing would happen. All of a sudden there would be 5 new ones on the scene, some with electricians and engine specialists attached. Eventually, as May wore on, the harbor would fill up until mid-June arrived, and 3,000 boats were on their moorings in our harbor. The anticipation, arrivals, departures, and finally full fleet reminded me of flowers and how they arrived slowly in the spring and then en masse in the summer. In language, we added the picture of a boat to our definition of a flower. We talked about how a new flower had arrived or one had departed. To this day, the girls will talk about the number of flowers that are in the harbor. I love the analogy. And then, of course, there's the garden on Foster Street. Prior to buying the property, I had had a deck garden for years at our apartment. The nursery owner in town once told me that I had more plants per square inch than any of his other customers. And that was how one had to do it. Would you believe I actually grew roses in pots? I treated them as annuals and kept records as to which type grew best and most prolifically in pots, and which were more inclined to be estate roses, looking for more elbow or cane room. The girls and I did vegetables in wooden wine crates, and Tom tired of dragging some of the larger shrubs in and out of the apartment each spring and fall. But finally we had our own home, and lots of land that had been patiently waiting for someone to love it. We began working on one section at a time, doing something every year. Each parcel is very special to me. They all speak of people, events, memories, decisions, heartaches, victories. All of that history has been carefully planted into the ground. The weeding and transplanting became a type of therapy for me, and I would brood and decide as I was out there, gloved, hatted, and scarved, pulling at the dirt. The gardens have taught me to accept aging gracefully. Each of the plants fearlessly moves from tiny shoot to disintegrated leaf and carries beauty with it the entire trip. There are special plants, trees, and bushes everywhere. One area has an azalea that was on our wedding altar. Another section we developed is a wildflower garden filled mainly with plants native to New England. There are some rare species, some with slight historical notes, and some with medicinal properties. Of everything at Foster Street, the hardest thing to leave will be my garden. It saddens me to know that I'll not be able to watch its continued development. The pier and dock would also be difficult to give up, but since I know that we'll be on the water, an even better option than looking at it, it's easier to relinquish them. Tom and I have always believed that no one owns the property. We are its caretakers. The real owners are all of the wildlife that share the land with us. The birds, fox and woodchuck, the squirrels, possum, and raccoons. Now, our watch is over. A shift to new caretakers is occurring. It is time to hand over the helm. I have given the garden my love, and it in turn has given me its life energy. That force will forever be in my heart, and as I carry it out into the world, it will enable me to live life fully.